out at the other end quite clear and pure. A mile and a half of land has been formed at the head of the lake since the time of the Romans by the mud thus brought down from the mountains. Thus we see that ice, like water, is always busy carving out the surface of the earth and sending down material to make new land elsewhere. We know that in past ages the glaciers were much larger than they are in our time, for we find traces of them over large parts of Switzerland where glaciers do not now exist, and huge blocks which could only have been carried by ice, and which are called erratic blocks, some of them as big as cottages, have been left scattered all over the northern part of Europe. These blocks were a great puzzle to scientific men till, in 1840, Professor Agassiz showed that they must have been brought by ice all the way from Norway and Russia. In those ancient days there were even glaciers in England, for in Cumberland and Wales you may see their work, in scratched and rounded rocks, and the moraines they have left. Llanberis Pass, so famous for its beauty, is covered with ice scratches, and blocks are scattered all over the sides of the valley. There is one block high up on the right-hand slope of the valley, as you enter from the Bedgelert side, which is exactly poised upon another block, so that it rocks to and fro. It must have been left thus balanced when the ice melted round it. You may easily see that these blocks were carried by ice and not by water, because their edges are sharp, whereas if they had been rolled in water they would have been smoothed down. We cannot here go into the history of that great glacial period long ago, when large fields of ice covered all the north of England. But when you read it for yourselves and understand the changes on the earth's surface which we can see being made by ice now, then such grand scenery as the rugged valleys of Wales, with large angular stone blocks scattered over them, will tell you a wonderful story of the ice of bygone times. And now we have touched lightly on the chief ways in which water and ice carve out the surface of the earth. We have seen that rain, rivers, springs, the waves of the sea, frost, and glaciers all do their part in chiseling out ravines and valleys, and in producing rugged peaks or undulating plains, here cutting through rocks so as to form precipitous cliffs, there laying down new land to add to the flat country, in one place grinding stones to powder, in others piling them up in gigantic ridges. We cannot go a step into the country without seeing the work of water around us. Every little gully and ravine tells us that the sculpture is going on. Every stream, with its burden of visible or invisible matter, reminds us that some earth is being taken away and carried to a new spot. In our little lives we see indeed but the very small changes, but by these we learn how greater ones have been brought about, and how we owe the outline of all our beautiful scenery, with its hills and valleys, its mountains and plains, its cliffs and caverns, its quiet nooks and its grand rugged precipices, to the work of the two great sculptors, water and ice. End of Lecture 5.